All right. So let me just check this real quick. Get the chat working.
KingSithis is now live streaming World of Warcraft, debating ThoughtBat.
Get the chat working.
KingSithis is now live streaming World of Warcraft.
All right, cool. So we are live, we are here, and we are queer, guys. What's going on? How you guys all doing? The name is KingSithis, and I am here with my buddy old pal, ThoughtBat. I'd like to think we're friends. I don't know.
No, we're the best of friends, KingSithis.
Hell yeah. And me and ThoughtRat over here, we're gonna have a discussion, a debate about the Coconut Island, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, cool. So I guess since you wanted to debate me, I guess would you like to lay out like your argument against my argument in the video?
We could do that, but I was going to start just to try and understand what your position even is.
Sure.
So obviously, well, for the sake of the audience, most of them will probably already know what the Coconut Island analogy was. It came from Vorsh, but it's actually originally from PJ Proudhon, where some sailor was stranded on an island, and the island was privately owned, and then the owner of the island was to kick him out into the sea. It wasn't about coconuts or anything like that, but the whole point of the situation is you're on an island and all the available or physically accessible resources are owned by somebody else. And so therefore, on the ANCAP view, if you want to make use of any of those resources, and you probably wouldn't need to if you want to live, you'd need to do so on the conditions set by the owner. And the socialists say that this is coercive, capitalists say it's not coercive, and so clearly there's a fork in the road there, but there's probably going to be a deeper fork in the road. And I've got a suspicion it's going to be based on our definitions on what coercion means. Not just definitions, but also how the term coercion is even grounded in any kind of political analysis. So I'm going to start off by asking you, Sithis, is it the case that A, an action is coercive because it violates a property right, or is it the case a property right has been violated because coercion was present?
It's coercion because you violated a property right.
So on that view, then, the coercion is defined in terms of the property right, yeah?
Yeah, so like how how I would view coercion is some sort of threat of force, force, fraud, or like when somebody actually harms you in some physical way. Or
that doesn't sound like what you just told me. So when you say it's contingent on a property right, then that's going to be it's violating some moral standard. It's not necessarily to do with natural facts. It's actually further downwind than the natural fact. So it's dependent on the property right, yeah?
Yeah, you have to be the owner of that thing for someone to be coercing you. So
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So like if you're if I have a rock and someone says, "Give me that rock," or I will do X to you, it's coercive because you're the owner of that thing.
Yeah, specifically if you own a rock and someone else says, "Give me that rock," not just if you have a rock, because possession isn't the same as ownership.
Yeah, if you're the owner.
So without a system of property rights, then coercion can't even be defined. So you need to have the system of property rights there in the first place. So everything hinges on the prior moral legal framework of the property. So we need to establish the property ones, but on what basis? So I understand you're a subjectivist. That means your property rights are subjective, and therefore that would mean you think coercion is subjective, yeah?
Well, I view coercion differently than others. Yeah.
Well, hang on. So let's just get the yes or no on that one.
Yes.
So if you think property rights are subjective, and then you think coercion is contingent on property rights, that must mean that you think coercion, or any understanding of coercion itself, is subjective.
Yes.
Okay, so coercion only occurs when Sithis decides?
Well, not necessarily. It's based on, it isn't when I decide. It's based on property rights.
Yeah, but that's subjective, and that's based on what Sithis decides. So if property rights...
I mean, in the sense that all of our moral prescriptions that we make are based on how we our whims. Yeah.
Yeah. So if property rights are based on your whims, coercion on the ANCAP view or your particular ANCAP view is subjective.
Yes.
Yeah. So if someone disagrees that it's coercion, then there's as much moral force there as anyone else saying it. Like Hitler can just say, "Well, it wasn't coercive in my view when I killed the Jews."
Well, yes. Anyone could just say, "Yeah,
Yeah, that's
you're not the owner of this thing, so therefore I could just do whatever I could want to you." But when we talk about
There's no but there.
huh?
There's no but there.
I mean,
If
yeah,
you're a moral subjectivist, there's
yeah,
no
that
but.
obviously, yes, someone can impose their will upon you. Yes.
No, I'm not asking you physically can someone impose a will. I'm just saying, as far as the ethics is concerned, it's down to what people say. So I'm not so because I'm also a moral subjectivist too, but I
Mhm.
don't define coercion in terms of property rights. I actually go the other way around. I have a natural concept of coercion prior, and then for me, the property norms are built around to try and minimize that. So that's how I do it. So coercion for me is a natural property. It's a natural event. Whereas for you, you're stuck because you're defining coercion in terms of property. You're stuck saying, well, coercion is just however I say it is, or whatever I decide,
Not
or
whatever I
whatever anyone
decide, it's
decides.
based on property rights.
Yeah, but that's property rights are whatever you decide. So
Yeah, but you could say that
you
about
can
any
down that.
subjective opinion or belief.
I can say that about any subjective opinion. That's absolutely correct. But when we talk about coercion, it's going to be if I was to say, oh, well, Coconut Island, I think because it's my preferences that it's coercive for the owner to stop the castaway having all the coconuts. That's got the same weight as you saying, no, 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 it's the opposite. There's no
Yeah,
debate to be had.
I'm not claiming a moral high ground here. I'm just stating you how I view my how I would view that situation, and you can
Well,
either
technically,
agree
you
with
would
me or
be.
disagree with me. You know, it's up
Well,
to you.
technically, you would be because coercion for you is defined in terms of property. Property for you is defined in terms of morality. Morality for you is defined in terms of subjective preferences. So it is all your moral high ground. So we
No,
can't escape
when I
that.
say I'm not saying I have a moral high ground, I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to say is I'm not saying that my view is objective and theirs is not. What I'm saying is I have this subjective belief, and if you disagree with the subjective belief, you could change my mind by giving me your arguments. But simply saying, "Oh, well, somebody can coerce you, or somebody can impose it, or this is just coming from your whims." I mean, yeah, that's true of all subjective beliefs.
So I suppose the question then is, how would I change your mind if if coercion is subjective?
Well, then you would have to basically explain to me how it is coercive. The situation is coercive, and then we would have to like a debate on, why it's coercive and why it's not coercive.
Well, we can't do that because you've already got your own definition of coercion. So it'd be like I'll be explaining to you how how it would fit your definition, but we disagree on the definition. So I'll be
But
more
then we would
asking
have
like,
to debate on the
how would it be
definition.
the case? Yeah, so we'd have to do it on the definition. So okay, so we've already got it nailed down that your version of coercion is subjective. I go
Hmm.
the opposite view, and also so do most people on the left, and I'll actually say most people anyway. So if property is contingent on the desire to minimize coercion, that means coercion can occur without property or regardless of property or even in accordance with property. So it means that property needs to be thought of as thought of and measured against this element of coercion. So coercion is going to be a more fundamental category, and then we construct the property rights to prevent it or minimize it.
Well, can
This
I
would be a
ask you
part of like
something?
a fictionalist. Hold on. This would be part of like a fictionalist effort, which is pragmatically oriented to minimize coercion. Yes, you're getting to me.
So why do you think the Coconut Island analogy is coercive? Let's just get to that.
Yeah. Okay. So what I would do is I typically, when I talk about coercion, I'm thinking of someone overriding another person's autonomous choice through threats, force, or imposed necessity. Now, the key term there is going to be imposed necessity. So, an imposed necessity is going to be pinned as doing, well, talk about necessity first. A necessity is going to be pinned as doing that which is required to live. So we're proposing ethics, and ethics are ultimately guides to life. Death undermines that whole project. Therefore, the pursuit of life grounds what is necessary, because that avoids the whole metaphysical way, oh, necessities don't really exist. We're talking about what is necessary for life.
Mm-hmm.
So if we talk about Coconut Island analogy, it's going to be having at least some other coconuts in order to sustain yourself. An imposed necessity then is when some artificial restriction against doing that which is required to live, where doing that which is required to live also means meeting the conditions set by some authority on doing what is required to live. So, for example, if you look at taxation, the statists could say to us as anarchists, "Oh, taxation isn't theft at all. You don't have to work. You don't have to trade. You don't have to do this. You can just choose not to do any of that, and we won't tax any of your profits." And well, obviously, the answer to that is, well, we need to work to live. What are you talking about? This is an imposed necessity.
Well, that wouldn't be my answer to that.
Well, that's my answer, because you
Yeah,
can't.
that wouldn't be my answer.
You can't give this answer because your coercion is based on property norms, which are subjective. I'm actually giving a more concrete answer to why taxation is coercive.
Yeah, I disagree with that's the reason why. I disagree that's the reason why taxation is coercive. The reason why taxation is coercive is because if I am the owner of the money in which I am in possession of, and some other person wants to sell me that thing, for another third party to come in and say, you must pay me a fee in that transaction would be a threat of force or coercion on those unwilling to participants in that transaction. So it's based on property rights. It's the fact that you're the owner of your property and someone's coming in and forcing you to pay when you don't want to. So it isn't simply like, oh yeah, you could say, oh, well, you don't have to engage in the transaction. Well, it's just like, yeah, I don't have to. But the thing is, if I'm the owner of my property, I have the right to do so. And for someone to stop me would be an initiation of force.
Yeah, but if you're talking to a statist, they're going to have a different subjective opinion on those property rights themselves. And so if they're going to disagree with like the ANCAP property ethic, which is subjective, then they're just going to
hold on. Just saying, oh, that's subjective. This is subjective. Okay, we're all believing in subjective beliefs here. Saying, oh, well, that's just subjective is not an argument against my beliefs. So you have to give me an argument against my beliefs as to why I'm wrong. It's not enough to say, oh, that's just subjective.
So if we just track in the argument, we're talking about coercion. I'm giving a natural account of coercion. You're giving a subjective account of coercion. I'm saying there are certain things which are subjective. Hold on. I'm saying there are certain things which are subjective, like morality, but I don't think coercion is subjective, right? So that means I can agree with another person.
So you think coercion is objective?
More coercion. Yeah.
So there's an objective definition to coercion?
It's not an objective definition because definitions themselves are not objective. However, what the definition is referring to, what it's picking out in reality, is a natural event. So overriding.
But what I'm pointing out happens in real life too. Is a natural event.
You're pointing out. No, you're not. You're pointing out what's happening in relation to subjective concepts.
You are too. A coercion is a subjective concept.
No.
Yes, it
coercion
is.
I'm pinning to natural facts. You're pinning it to subjective constructs.
Yeah, but then again, that's your opinion on whether or not it's coercion or not.
What do you mean that's my opinion on whether it's...
That's not objective that person is being coerced, unless you're going with the objective morality situation. Because a coercion is a coercion is a moral claim. It isn't simply like, oh, therefore they are being coerced. Like if somebody is being coerced or not, that's like I think that that person is some wrong is being done to them in some way or another. Like I can't.
No, I agree it's got moral connotations.
And that's a subjective belief.
No, I agree it's got moral connotations. Like when we use the word coercion, that's got a negative feeling attached to it. But that's not the core. That's not the core thing that the word is picking out. Now, yeah, definitions themselves are subjective, but that's not the point. Well, the point is the mouth sound that I am using, i.e., coercion, is referring to a natural event in the real world. When you use the word coercion, you're referring to a violation of a property right, and the property right itself is a subjective construct, which people can just not agree with.
You're not.
However,
hold on. Coercion is a subjective belief.
Criteria. Hold on. No, it's not.
Yes,
if I have a criteria, well, hold on. If I say coercion equals, when I use the word coercion, what I'm picking out is the overriding of someone's autonomous choice through threats, force, imposed necessity. Those are all natural facts that everyone can agree on. If someone
No,
disagrees with
I'm not agreeing
whether or not,
with you on this at all. I'm not agreeing with you on this at all.
hang on, there's nothing. Hang on, there's nothing for us to disagree with here, right? So you'll say all you're disagreeing with is the definition. I'm not
Yes,
interested in it.
I'm disagreeing with you on your definition of coercion. Yes.
Yeah, that's not relevant. So what I'm
It is
saying
relevant.
when I
It's
use the
very
word-
relevant.
Hold on, you're interrupting. When I use the word coercion, I'm referring to a natural fact, right? That natural fact being the overriding of someone's autonomous choice, X, Y, and Z.
I don't consider that to be an
whether or not-
overriding of
hold on,
someone's autonomous
doesn't matter,
choice.
Doesn't matter. Hold on.
I don't consider
Hold on.
that to be an
When-
overriding of
hold
someone's
on,
autonomous
hold
choice.
on.
That's subjective.
No, it's not.
Yes, it
Right,
is.
so is rape? So if somebody rapes someone, is that subjectively determined if it's overriding someone's autonomous choice?
Yes.
Why?
Because
What?
The only
What?
reason why the only reason why we consider that to be an overriding of
Yes.
another person's force is because we believe that rape is wrong and it's immoral to take
No,
over
it's
someone's
not.
property. Also,
No, we believe it's wrong.
I don't
because it's overriding
consider
the
hold on,
autonomous
I don't
choice.
consider refusing to give somebody food as the same as being as rape. When one rape is you're literally forcing somebody to do something that you want, whereas refusing to give somebody your property and they die, I mean that you're not imposing anything upon them. So I don't agree with how you define that.
You're pivoting, Sithis, right?
I'm
So
not pivoting.
overriding someone's you are overriding someone's autonomous choice, right?
Yeah, I don't
When someone
consider
rapes
that to
someone-
be overriding someone's autonomous choice to refuse to give someone's food.
No,
someone
hold
food.
on. We're just gonna. I'm just asking the question. If you're saying whether or not someone's autonomous choice has been overridden, you're saying that is a subjective fact, right? That would mean then that whether or not rape has occurred is itself subjective.
Well, yeah, the concept of rape is a subjective concept. It's a
I'm asking
concept
about the
that us
content. I'm
humans
not asking about
hold
the
on. It's a
concept.
concept that
I'm
us
asking about the
humans
concept.
made of, so that we could sort of determine who's right and wrong in a situation. And when you
So-
talk about overriding somebody's autonomy, right?
Mhm.
You have to give me like how you define that, right? You can't just say, "Oh, that's just an objective fact," because I don't consider me not giving somebody my food to be overriding their autonomy. Because me not giving somebody my food I'm not stopping them from
either.
doing anything.
In a vacuum, I don't either. But what I'm asking you is,
Okay, so then that's
If-
not relevant.
can a judge objectively determine whether or not someone's autonomous choices have been overridden?
Objectively?
Yeah, can that be objectively determined whether or not like rape has happened? Because we're not at like trading goods yet. We're at rape, right? So we're saying, is the fact of rape occurred? Is that a subjective thing or is that a objective?
Well,
thing? Can we determine?
rape again
Can I
is
prove
just.
that in court?
I mean, you could prove it in court, but the thing is, rape is just
So it's subjective.
and yes, but the thing is, rape is just a concept. Rape,
That's a
murder, yeah, it's subjective in the sense that rape, murder, property right. Excuse me, rape, murder, property rights. All of these concepts, all of these things are concepts that us humans made up so that we could sort of settle disputes over resources, right? And whether or not somebody raped somebody or didn't rape somebody depends on the subjective views of the individuals within that society. So, for instance, there are countries that don't consider people who have sex within marriage to be rape, whereas I consider it to be rape. So their view on sexual assault is different than mine. So yeah, like it's completely, that definition of what rape is could be different from each individual person. That's all I'm pointing out.
Have you heard of the
Now,
nap and
what
toast?
I'm doing, all I'm doing is telling you how I define coercion. And all I'm asking you is how you define coercion. And if you have a different way of defining coercion, then we could quibble about how, whether or not your version of coercion is correct or my version of coercion is correct. But you can't just say, oh, my version of coercion is objectively true, because I don't consider me not giving another person food to be overriding their autonomy. I don't consider that to be true. So if you do consider that to be true, you have to give me an argument for that.
Hold on. So first off, I'm not arguing with you about which definition is objective. What I'm saying is my subjective definition is making reference to natural events. Now, when you talk about like different people agreeing on what the definition of rape is, and you're saying concepts are made up, yeah, I agree. Concepts are made up, but that is the map. don't confuse it with the territory. Don't commit the map and territory fallacy.
Mhm.
Because what the concept is referring to or attempting to refer to is going to be an objective phenomenon, as in something that did indeed happen, right? So when people say rape, we talk about non-consensual sex, right? Whether or not non-consensual sex happened is an objective fact. That means if I can go to a court and say, right, okay, X has been raped by Y, here's all the evidence. It would be wrong for the judge to look at that and say, I don't feel like it happened though.
No. But
No, I don't feel like
here's my
this
issue.
happened.
What I'm saying is a judge could look at that and be like, I don't consider this to be a violation of consent. So, for instance, in other countries, there are countries that, and where people will be like, hey, I'm a wife of this man. This man forced me to have sex. Oh, you're married? Well, women who are married, they can't be raped. So therefore, even though it may
Yeah, they're
be
objectively wrong.
pointing to that situation and being like, yeah, that person was forced to have sex, they may be like, oh, it's not against, it doesn't violate that person's consent because our subjective view on consent. So I have a different view on consent than they do. They have a different view on consent than I do. So if you have a different view on what is coercion, then we have to figure out what that difference is and why, who is right and wrong in their view on it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, so
if you believe that my
within
view
the same
on coercion is
problem,
incorrect, you have to give me an explanation for that.
yeah, well, this is the explanation, right? So
Mhm.
mine's pointing to. I've said this multiple times. I'm pointing to natural phenomenon, right? Natural events, right? So when we have the debate with the other guys in whatever country it is, who they're saying, well, marital rape can't happen because of some god saying so. Well, they're wrong, right? They're objectively wrong. We can say that no, this was an instance of forced sex, right? And we find forced sex to be immoral. That's the subjective part. The objective part is whether or not someone was forced to have sex with another person. When I say rape, the better definition of rape is going to be like non-consensual sex, because that's referring to something that is objectively true or false. It's not like, it's rape is defined as when Bob says rape happened. Right?
Okay,
That's a subjective reference.
I
Mine,
understand
I'm
that,
using a objective reference.
but the problem is you're saying, oh, it's objectively false, but then you're giving an explanation as to why it's objectively false. So if you're saying that, well, my view on coercion is objectively false, you have to give me an explanation as to why it's objectively false.
Hold on.
And the only way you
I'm not
can do
giving.
that, and the only
It's a straw
way,
manning.
hold on, the
It's a
only
straw
way
manning.
that you can do that is by explaining to me how
Straw manning.
it is coercion to withhold food from another person that you own because they're gonna die. Like, why is that coercion?
You're straw manning. I'm not saying that your definition of coercion is objectively false. I never made that claim. I'm actually making the opposite claim. I'm saying that both our definitions are subjective. However,
Mhm.
mine has a natural reference point. Yours does not, and that's the
Okay.
difference. That's the difference between what you think I'm saying and what I'm actually saying.
Okay.
I'm not
So
saying
let's
my
get to the
definition is
point of
objectively
the
right and
debate,
yours is
though.
objectively
The
wrong.
real point of the debate
We can't get there.
is this coercion? Is this coercion? Like, if I have food
Yeah.
and I say, I don't want to give you my food and you're going to die, is that coercion?
It depends on the exact context. Is there an imposed necessity going on?
So what do I need to add to this conversation to determine whether or not it's coercion?
Well, you need to describe the material conditions because we don't
Well,
tend to do things
all
in
right, so let's
those
take
kinds
the
of
Coconut
vacuums.
Island analogy. So the Coconut Island
Yeah.
analogy, there's two guys on an island. One guy woke up before the other. Yada yada. You know what it is. Why is that
Mhm.
person coercing the other person? Why?
He is coercing the other person because there's an imposed necessity on him to meet the conditions of the property owner to have access to the means of life.
Yeah, I don't believe there is a no imposed necessity.
You don't think there's an imposed necessity?
Nope.
So you don't think? Okay.
I don't
So
think
do you
that
think
that
property
imposed
is
necessity, or you know
do
what?
you
Let me
think?
be more clear. I don't believe that an
Can I just
imposed
give you the
necessity is
definition of
a
imposed
coercion.
necessity?
Is coercion.
Okay. So imposed necessity isn't a coercion. Well, you don't think it's a coercion because of your subjective definition, right? So we're not talking about that. I want to know, has a necessity been imposed by the owner?
No.
No. Okay. So you don't believe that when somebody is subjectively claiming a property right over the island, That is an artificial restriction against doing that which is required to live.
Well, because I believe in homesteading. So because the person homesteaded the
Is
property,
homesteading objective or is it subjective?
it doesn't matter whether it's
It
objective or
doesn't, because
subjective.
if
Hold
it's
on.
going to be an
If you
artificial
hold
restriction,
on, saying that's just
hold on.
subjective is not an argument against my belief.
No,
If you
I'm asking you
disagree
if it's meeting the definition of
if you
imposed
disagree with
necessity.
homesteading, you have to give me a reason why you disagree with homesteading.
No.
Saying, "Oh, that's just a subjective belief."
nuh-uh.
That doesn't change
on.
anything.
You're straw manning. You're not understanding the argument. So when an imposed necessity is when some artificial restriction against doing that which is required to live is imposed. Now, is homesteading an artificial restriction?
What do you mean by artificial restriction?
As in, it's restricted not by natural means, but by social constructed means, i.e., property.
Oh, in that case,
Or
then,
law.
and I mean, in the sense that my claim to the property is stopping you from eating, yes, but I would not consider that to be coercion.
I know we know that because you've
But
got
that's the whole debate.
coercion and me.
That's the
I
whole
know, but
debate.
we're not debating the. Yeah, okay, but you shut down the debate on coercion earlier because you said it's all subjective. But now I'm talking to you.
Yeah,
about
but we have different
what I would
definitions of
consider-
coercion, and if you have a different definition
Yeah.
of coercion, or think the way in which I view coercion is incorrect, you have to just tell me. So you have to tell me
So
why.
where do we go? So how would I be able to convince you that your definition
It's
of coercion is
by
incorrect?
giving me your best arguments, and then we go from there.
Well, but it's a definition. How can I give you an argument for a definition?
By
Doesn't make
making a
sense.
reasoning for why you believe in that definition and why you believe that definition is more stronger than mine. Why do I have to tell you how to defeat my arguments? You're here to debate me. That's up to you,
Because I'm
dude.
wondering what your criteria.
I'm not here to
are.
help you.
I'm wondering what your
Listen to
I'm
me.
wondering what your
You're the one.
criteria
You're
is.
making the claim that the Coconut
Yeah.
Island analogy is a coercive situation, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to give me a reason for that. You can't just say, "Oh, your reason is subjective. My reason is
Giving you
subjective."
plenty.
Like you got to give me a reason for that.
I've given you plenty of reasons.
What is the reason?
The reason is my definition of necessity is better than yours because it's got a natural reference point. You haven't refuted that.
A natural reference point? How is that
Yeah.
person being coerced? What is he doing to that person?
He's imposing a necessity on him.
Imposing a necessity on him?
Yeah.
So if I wouldn't consider that to be imposing a necessity on the person because that person.
You just agreed it. You just said it was.
And the reason why is because if I am the owner of food, right? If I have food and you want it, me not giving it to me isn't imposing anything on you. That necessity is there regardless of whether I own the food or don't own the food.
That's interesting. What is a property right?
A property right is just the right to exclude from another person from a scarce resource.
So it's a right to exclude another.
Well, it's a claim. It's an ownership right claim.
Oh yeah, it's an ownership right claim. What does an exclusion look like?
Would mean to stop you from using it.
So a property right would be an imposed force against another person. Yeah.
Yeah, but the fact that you go hungry isn't imposed on that person.
The fact that you're stopping them from accessing the resources.
No, yeah, but I wouldn't consider that to be coercion because the fact that you go hungry is not my fault.
That's circular. That's circular.
It's not circular. So, for instance,
It is.
the fact that you
we're
go
talking about
hungry,
my definition of
okay, the
coercion.
fact that you go hungry is not my fault, right?
Yeah, it is.
How is it my fault?
Because you've imposed the necessity.
Yeah, but let's say I wasn't there.
All the food from it.
Yeah, but let's say I wasn't there and there was no coconuts there. You're going to starve, right?
Mhm.
So, that starvation isn't imposed upon you by another person. Like, no person forces you to starve.
Yeah, if there's no coconuts around, then yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that isn't imposed
But there is
upon you
coconuts.
by another person, right?
Nope.
Okay. So if I withhold something against you that I own and you starve, that starvation isn't imposed upon you. That is just a natural condition of life.
Yeah, it is. If you own all the available resources, then that would be imposed upon that person.
No, because again,
'Cause
the fact that you starve is not my fault.
Coconut that exists. Well, the coconut it would be, because if you're stopping this person from accessing your coconuts, then yeah, you are actually getting in the way of him doing that which is required to live.
Not necessarily.
Aren't you?
Not necessarily.
Well, you are.
Because I've given the person in that situation, I've given the person a way out. I said, hey, you could suck my dick. And if you want to suck my dick, you can have the coconuts. So I'm not taking
haven't
anything
given
away
them
from
away.
them. I'm giving them a way
Yeah.
out.
You haven't given them a way out. The coconuts are already bloody there.
No, but
They're
for you to
already
take it
there.
from me.
You've taken them.
So you saying that
Don't-
I have the right to take it from him, or you have the right to take the coconut from me? Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
we haven't got there yet. We haven't got quite there yet, but we're talking about coercion.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider it to be coercion because the fact that you go hungry is not my fault.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
Because you're imposing a necessity. It's you're making a choice to impose a necessity on certain conditions on.
No, the
accessing
fact
coconuts.
that you
don't
go
need to.
hungry is not my fault. You would go hungry whether I'm
Yeah,
there
it
or
is, 'cause
not.
it's your actions.
No,
So if-
my
hold
actions
on.
did not cause you to go hungry. Your body
Right,
goes
let's-
hungry
let's-
regardless of whether I'm
Oh,
there
really?
or not.
Oh, really? So no, it's not where. So if let's say there's an island,
Mm-hmm.
the coconuts are there.
Yes.
I'm the stowaway who wakes up, and you're not there. I look around and there's coconuts, and I eat the coconuts.
Uh-huh.
Now compare that to the situation where we're both on the island, and KingSithis has already collected all the coconuts and he's already claimed ownership of them, or rather, he's actually just gone around and put a fence around the island. He said, "Right, I've boarded this now," and he hasn't even touched any of the coconuts. Then you say, "No, you're not accessing any of the coconuts for that," and I starve. Well, who's the
No one.
who's the
The
difference
fact
there?
that your body goes hungry is not my
Who's the
fault.
difference there? Well, it is because it's your actions that made the
No.
difference, right?
No.
In those two, yes.
My actions are not responsible for the fact that
Shall
your
I
body
spell that
goes
out again?
hungry. Your body
Try
goes
spell it out
hungry.
again. Yeah, try spell it out again. So in first island, I wake up, there's no KingSithis. I go around, I eat the coconuts, I don't die. Second
Mhm.
island, there is a KingSithis. He's boarded the island, and he stops me from eating the coconuts.
I don't disagree with you that
What's the
me
difference
not giving you the coconuts, right? You're gonna
No,
die
not you
because
not
I don't
giving me
give you
the
the coconuts, right? My
No,
only argument
you
is that it's
procreating
not my
coconuts.
fault that you died because your body, you're responsible
wouldn't
for. Hold on, the fact that you're going hungry is not imposed upon by me. Your body
Yeah, it is.
causes you to be hungry. I don't cause you to be hungry.
It absolutely is.
No, you don't.
What you do, because there's two different consequences in the two different islands, right? The consequence where I die is made possible by you being there and appropriating the coconuts and denying me access. That's your actions affecting the consequence. I think
So
the
I'm
consequence has been
responsible if you die.
specific. Yeah.
So
You've
why am I
literally-
responsible?
because
Because
you have homesteaded every single possible resource I could possibly use on the island.
so
and
if
deny
somebody
me
has a
access to them.
resource that another person
Those are your
needs, so if I have a resource that another person needs, and if they don't get it, they're gonna die. I'm responsible for their death.
Not as a universal rule, no, but in this particular situation, whereby all of the land and resources has been accumulated and owned by you and denied from me, then that is a situation where you're responsible for the death. You haven't
Okay,
even got to the more nuanced takes about actual.
but wait a
resource
minute.
analysis just yet.
But then you're basically saying, oh well, in this situation, I think it's coercion, but in other situations, it depends on how I feel.
No, it depends on the material conditions of the given society.
Well, let's say like somebody has a weird disease where they're gonna die if they don't like punch you in the face. Would you have the right to? Would you have the right to stop
No, they
them from
wouldn't have the
punching
right to
you?
punch me in the face. No, they wouldn't have the right to punch me in the face.
Yeah, but you're the only way they could live.
Yeah, but I didn't impose an artificial necessity upon them.
You
They just
did.
exist.
You did because
I didn't.
if you don't allow them to punch you, from your perspective, you don't allow them to punch you. Use your resources that you have in abundance, which is your face, then they're gonna die,
Mhm.
and it's your fault.
Yeah, I thought my self-ownership rights were inalienable.
Your self ownership rights is still a right to ownership over a scarce
Yeah, I
resource.
thought my self-ownership was I am not inalienable for my body, right? So this is why we separate out bodily autonomy from external property.
Yeah, but the
External
guy is going to
property-
die because
Hold
hold on. The situation is the same. Your
Well,
body is
you're
a scarce
interrupting me, so
resource,
why are you
right?
saying, hold on.
Your body is your
You're
scarce
interrupting me
resource,
by
right?
saying, hold on.
Your body is
Yeah.
a scarce resource, right?
Is it an external resource?
But is a scarce resource.
Is it an external resource?
Hold on. I'm asking you a specific question. Is your body a scarce
Yes,
resource?
Yes, it's a scarce resource. Is it an
Okay.
external resource?
I understand it's not an external resource, as in the sense that you are your body. Yes, I get that.
Let's
But
put a
it
pin in
is
it.
a scarce resource, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So you are withholding a scarce resource from another person, and if you do that, they're going to die, right?
Mhm.
So you're imposing that condition upon that person.
Yep.
Okay, so therefore you're responsible for not letting that guy punch you die.
Nope.
Why
The
not?
reason is I could,
What?
because I could be, because Sithis, I could do nothing but occupy my body. I can't leave my body, but I can't leave those fucking coconuts alone. I can even give you the coconuts.
You
But I
could let him
cannot
punch you in
separate
the
myself
face.
from the-
You could let him punch you in the face.
So I could just give you the coconuts.
And you could
I
let
don't
him
need to
punch you in the
appropriate
face.
coconuts in the first place. Yeah, but I'm always in my face, if that makes any sense.
It doesn't make
Right?
a difference.
I could
I
easily
don't think that
not
makes a
appropriate all the
difference.
coconuts. Yeah, it could, because if I'm choosing, if I can't choose to be in my body, but I can choose not to appropriate all the coconuts, then that will be a morally relevant difference. I.e.,
Wait, but
there's a
you
choice
can choose
there.
to let him punch you in the face, correct?
Yeah, you can, but there's
Okay,
still,
so then the
you've still got the
situation is
right.
the
Hold on.
same. So you have a
Yeah,
choice.
but
You
you've
either
still got
let him
the,
punch
yeah,
you in
but
the
you've
face,
still got the right. No.
or he dies. So you're imposing that death on that man.
Yeah,
Okay, so then you're
but
responsible based on your logic.
not really, no, because again, like I said, you can't help but choose to own your body, right? Or be in your body or experience your body.
Doesn't
But you
matter.
can
It doesn't
choose.
matter.
Yes, it does.
Nope.
Choice doesn't matter in
You
ethics. Are
can
you sure?
choose. Wait,
Are you
but you
sure,
can
Sithis?
choose to let him punch you in the face,
Sithis,
right? You
are you
can choose to
sure
let him punch you in
about
the
that?
face.
You can let him. You can choose to let him punch in the face, but that's still an
Okay,
ownership
so
right. They're
that's
still
but
doing it on your condition.
that's what's we're talking about.
So hold on. So if it's the case that somebody can choose, we're not talking about choosing or not choosing, right? We're not talking about whether or not the property owner chooses to let you have the coconuts. We're talking about the position where he can only give you those coconuts on condition. Right? Now,
Okay,
for him to be in
I'll
that
change the
situation, you have
hypothetical
to
then.
hold on. Whoa. No, for him to be in that situation, he needs to choose in the first place to go around and appropriate or homestead all the coconuts. However, bodies, there can be no other way around it. You're always in your body. You
I don't
always
think it
have that.
matters.
Ownership.
It's a
Yes, it
scarce
does, because that's
resource.
choice. You can't tell me choice doesn't matter in ethics.
No. What I'm
You
saying,
can't tell
it
me
doesn't
choice
matter.
doesn't matter.
No. I didn't say that. I didn't mean that. I said it doesn't matter that your body is you like not an external resource. It's still a scarce resource. And two, I could just change the hypothetical to, okay, well, let's say there's a situation where if let's say a guy is gonna die if you don't have sex with this woman, but the woman says, yeah, I'll let you have sex with me, but you got to take me on a date first, right? And she's giving you a hypothetical. There's a situation where she said, I'll let you have sex with me if you let me take you on a date. You have the choice of either giving up the money to take her on the date or die. It's basically the same situation. So is that woman coercing that man?
Go through that slowly again.
So
Up again slowly.
there's a woman. She's like, hey,
Yeah.
no, okay, so there's a guy and he's going to die if you do not have sex. He does not have sex with a woman. He goes to a woman, hey, can you have sex with me? And then she goes, hey, I'll let you have sex with me if you take me on a date. But if you don't take me on a date, I won't let you have sex with me. And the guy goes, oh, shit. Is that guy being coerced by that woman now?
Depends on the external circumstances. So is it specifically just that woman?
Yeah. Like, let's say they're on an island.
Okay, so she is the only means by which she can live. Okay, yeah, that's coercion.
How is that? Yes. So saying I won't let you have sex with me unless you take me on a date. That's coercing him because he's gonna die.
Yeah, and it's justified coercion.
Yeah, I just disagree with you on this.
The reason why you disagree with me, Steve, is because you tie coercion to morality. Remember what I said when I said you can have when coercion is not contingent on morality or property.
So
Therefore, you
should
can
that
have
man be allowed
justified
to
coercion.
like, okay, so let's
Yeah, you
say
can have.
now that we've kind of gone
Mhm.
over like the coercion thing, right? Let's move on to like, okay,
Yep.
now what do we do? Should the person be allowed to steal that thing, right? What do you think? Should that person be allowed to steal that thing?
What is that thing?
Well, the coconut.
Oh, the coconut. Yeah, steal some coconuts. Yeah.
So what about the woman situation? Should the guy be allowed to like force himself upon her?
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not.
Well, then what's the difference?
The difference is the choice aspect in the appropriation of the coconuts and the non-choice aspect of having to remain in the body and experiencing all the horrors of rape, whether or not she likes it.
Yeah, but I don't like being
So
stolen
the
from.
choice aspect. So don't
Okay.
appropriate all the fucking coconuts then.
Well, yeah, but the reason why
it's an
raping
easy way
is
not to be stolen
wrong,
from.
the reason why rape is wrong is because you're taking a scarce resource or using a scarce resource that another person owns without their consent, correct?
That wouldn't be the only reason why it's wrong, but okay.
Well, that is the reason. So
Well,
it's the same situation in rape as it is the coconut because you're taking a scarce resource or using a scarce resource that person owns without their consent. Hello? Thought Is it me or is he not talking? Or am my internet out?
Where did I go?
Oh, there you go.
Am I back?
I can hear you
I'm
now.
back. Yeah, ask that question again.
Okay. So the reason why it's wrong to rape or steal, right, is because you're taking or using a scarce resource that another person owns without their consent.
Mhm.
And it's the same thing, right? You're taking their coconut, you're taking their body, you're using their stuff without their consent. It's wrong for the same reason.
That's not the universal maxim that I go by because we've gone through the plucking their hair to save the world. So we already know that I don't believe it's wrong in all cases. Neither does anybody else believe it's wrong in all cases to just to violate consent. Right? There are some times where coercion is justified. I'll agree that plucking their hair to save the world is a type of coercion, but it's a justified coercion. I'll agree that if it's the only means of survival is to have sex with someone and they just set conditions on that sex, then that's coercion, but it's a justified coercion. So my ethics is not actually primed towards respecting property rights at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Have I gone again?
Yeah, but like, wouldn't that? But I don't see how it's much different from each other. You're taking a scarce resource from another person without their consent.
Well,
it's just basically like, oh, I don't know, I don't like how that feels in one situation where the other one is just like, eh.
There's a little bit of subjectivism in there because again, I'm a moral subjectivist. We're talking about morals now. Right? We're both subjectivists, but my goals are geared more towards the consequences of maximize social cohesion, maximize flourishing, and he's trying to balance too. It's not the most clear, laid out ethical framework, I'll agree, but that's a problem with pluralism. With monism, you end up in like really silly situations where you say you'd prefer these things happen when you clearly wouldn't prefer those things to happen, like allowing the world to be blown up instead of stealing a penny. Actually, I want to get onto
the
that.
thing
like,
is,
you're a subjectivist, right? I want to get onto that, by the way, because obviously we've got these different ethical frameworks.
but do you mind if I respond to that real quick? So in the
go ahead, but I'll be moving to that.
Yeah, just put that in a note real quick. So the thing is, it's like, wait a minute, like you're saying in one situation, well, it's okay to pluck a hair to save the world because you're saving the world, right? But in this situation, you're only saving one life. So you're violating another person's rights. So like so are you arguing like, oh, the degree of harm that is being done is not enough to justify the violation? Is that what you're making the argument?
No, I'm not making a utilitarian argument. If you remember last time, the way I separated out what I would do to someone to save the world, it was like, what would an agent reasonably expect what I expect a reasonable agent to agree to if they were to be aware of all facts.
Okay.
For rape, that's never going to be the case. It's very, very unlikely someone's going to say, yes, I'd like to be raped in order to save someone's life. So on that regard, on those grounds, I'll probably say no.
But
Whereas
don't
if
you
it's be
think
like
that's kind of fucked?
island situation, what? Why would that be fucked?
Because what if people think it's okay to rape?
No.
Or it's at least to save the world, or to take a coconut, or to like, what if people thought it was okay? Would that then make it okay for you to think it's okay?
Well, if it was if we did, because this is where the empirical studies would have to come in if we were to go and do them. If it
Well,
was to come
assuming
back
the
and
empirical study
why do
says
people
yes.
interrupt me? Yeah, assume an empirical study says yes, most people would be okay, would reflect on their rape, right? On them being raped, and they'd say, yes, I'd be okay with it happening to me if it meant saving the world. Then at that point, okay, well, the formula spits out, then yes, it would be okay to rape, because that would be what people would prefer to have done to them than the world blow up. Right?
Yeah, but
They'd
is
actually
this
make
like a
that choice.
majority situation? Does it have to be like 51% above this percentage of people need to believe in this? And if 51% of people believe in it, then fuck the other 49% who don't believe in it. The majority says it's okay.
I'd need to think about the exact percentages. I don't think there's an exact percentage, but it'd be more like a high enough percentage, at least above 50, that would allow me to say
So how
it's
do you come to that
reasonable to
conclusion?
expect a person to have that. Well, because that's how reasonable assumptions work. If it's more than the average, like
Yeah,
if
but
I
you
was to
sound
say
like
to
a
you,
policy
yes,
maker.
99,
You're like, you're basically like,
what?
like,
We're doing ethics, not doing policy.
yeah, but it's not based on a concrete ethic. Like, for instance, I would say it's always
There's
wrong.
no such thing as concrete ethics.
Well, in the sense that fucking it's applies and is applicable to every situation. Like the NAP, right? Like I'm never okay. It's never okay for me to violate the NAP in any situation. Whereas you're kind of just like, well, in this situation it's okay to rape, or in this situation it's okay to not rape. It depends on how these people feel, how I think, what percentage of people I think it makes it okay for them to say it's okay for other people to rape people.
It depends on it depends on multiple morally relevant factors. There's more than one morally relevant factor.
Okay.
Of course, obviously.
It's just like, I don't know. It just seems like way more arbitrary than anything that I would assume. Than I would.
No. What it is, it's complicated. It's not arbitrary. It's equally as arbitrary. Mine's just more complicated, and the reason mine's more complicated is
or
I'm
other
having
words,
to weigh
complicated
multiple,
or whatever.
No, because the reason why it's complicated or more complicated is because I'm having to weigh multiple morally relevant factors, whereas you're only thinking of one relevant. And where that moral relevant factor is going to be like, just is a property right violated, right? But when it comes to things like plucking the hair to save the world, there's obviously more morally relevant factors in it. But I'm still confused by like what your position on that even is. Right? So if it's like, would you prefer the world blow up than have your hair plucked?
Yes.
You would prefer you would prefer that.
Well, me personally. Well, I mean, it depends on what I
like. About your ethics, which are personal and subjective.
Yeah. Obviously, like me personally, like I wouldn't consider it to be a rights violation in my case because I wouldn't care if somebody plucked my hair to save the world. But let's say if there was a situation where somebody didn't want their hair to be plucked to save the world, and somebody plucked their hair to save the world, no, not good. Don't do it.
So let's just think again. So let's reframe the question.
Let them die.
To its original framing. Let's reframe the question back to its original question. So somebody is about to have their hair plucked. They don't know it's to save the world, but they're about to have their hair plucked anyway.
And we know they don't want it to be done to them.
Well, we don't know these things. That's not part of the hypothetical. And someone's about to go up to them, and we're sitting in the cafe and we're watching this happen, and we know what the consequences are. And I say, hey, Sithis, what would you prefer happen? The guy pluck his hair, or we all fucking blow up and drift into the cold, freezing darkness of space?
Whatever doesn't violate the NAP.
Right. So is the answer going to be Thoughtbat? I really hope he doesn't pluck the hair, Thoughtbat. I really would prefer the aliens blow us up if he doesn't pluck the hair.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fucking stupid, Sithis.
It's not stupid. You know what I think is stupid? Saying it's okay to rape people because 51% of the population thinks it's okay.
Yeah.
Thinking it's okay to murder millions and millions of people because millions and millions of people plus one is going to live.
Sithis, you're in favor of sex for rent and you're in favor of people watching child porn.
I'm perfectly okay with sex for rent. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
You're perfectly okay with people consuming child porn?
Consuming?
Consuming it, like watching it.
I mean, it's not necessarily a rights violation to consume it, no. So am I okay with it? So, wait. Okay, so we got to talk about, like, there's obviously a difference between, like, you know, obviously I think there's a sickening act, right, being done there, right? Versus, like, what I think there's is there a rights violation going on? If you're going to ask me, is there a rights violation going on? I would say no. If you're going to ask me, do I think it's okay in the sense that people should or like, you know, personally think it's okay? No, I don't think it's okay. I think people who do that are fucked.
Well, I wanted to go back into the cafe situation where you and I are watching something happen. The police are about to burst in on this pedo's house and about to seize his laptop and say, right, he's got child porn on his computer. We're going to charge this guy with possession of child porn. And what are you going to say? Thought about, I really hope some superhero comes in and saves a predator from watching child porn.
Well, I mean, I probably wouldn't say that, but I would say that they are violating. Excuse me. Let me answer the question. I would say that there is a rights violation going on there in the sense that they're seizing his property when he hasn't violated anyone's rights.
I feel like you're not answering the question. Would you say you prefer?
I answered the question.
That not happen? Would you prefer that right not to be violated?
I would prefer. Yeah, I would prefer people's rights not be violated. Yes.
Right. So when we're saying I would prefer people be allowed to watch child porn, I'm not going to take these grandstanding things about you to let people be raped when they already say they'd rather be raped with a wheelboat. That's not a big bullet to bite in comparison to that. So let's not go there.
Well, the thing is, there's a difference between me acknowledging that someone isn't violating another person's rights, so therefore, even though what they're doing is really, really fucked up and disgusting, versus saying it's okay to rape people, or it's okay to murder people, or it's okay to kill actual people. See, the difference between me and you is I would never, in any situation, say it's okay to violate another person's rights under any condition, whereas you would endorse rape, murder, killing, and or any sort of rights violation, so long as it is okay with you. So yeah, you could twist up. You could find this one situation where that's kind of a weird situation, right? But in the reverse, you support a system that literally rapes, murders, and kills people. So yeah, I would argue one is worse than the other. Yes.
Hold on, you're listening. Yeah, you're deliberately missing out another little factor there. When the other morally relevant factor is the other side of the scale is the world blowing up, and it's also revealed that most people would rather have that done to them, have the rape done to them, than the world blow up.
Yeah, I don't think it's okay to rape.
Hold on, whoa, that is when I would only say it's okay, because those people who it's been done to would very likely prefer that happen to them than the world blow up.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Recommending that the worst thing happened to them.
Yeah, that doesn't refute my argument.
Not me.
That doesn't refute my argument. The only argument that you have is these reductios in which situation, somebody doesn't necessarily violate another person's rights. Whereas I could get a reductio upon you that literally has you endorsing rape and murder. So I think one is certainly worse than the other.
Sithis. I'm endorsing one set of actions when they would
that includes rape.
Those actions that happen to them. I'm endorsing a set of actions when that group of people would prefer that set of actions happen to them than the world blow up.
Yeah, but would it have to be 100% of the people that support that? Or what percentage of the people would have to support that before? So, like, let's say there's 51% of the people that don't support it, or that does support it, and 50% of the people that don't support it. So fuck those other 50%. Let them be raped, even though they don't support it. Because the majority says it's okay.
They're not being reasonable. Yeah, but not being reasonable. They're not doing what a reasonable person would be expected.
Yeah, so who cares? Let them be raped, even though they don't want to. Because okay, gotcha. No problem.
To save the world, yeah.
Gotcha.
Save the world. What's your opinion on people walking into public schools and masturbating in front of the children?
The state does not own the public schools.
So you think it should be allowed?
Be allowed. Allowed in the sense that I don't know.
I think you prefer them to do it than someone stop them from doing it.
I don't know because it depends on whether or not there's a rights violation going on there, and I can't give you a solid answer onto that.
Let's say there's not.
If there isn't, then no.
So someone,
If there isn't, then no.
yeah, so it's a public school. It's a public school. Technically, it's unowned property. And then a pedo walks in, gets a dick out in front of the kids, and just starts jacking off. Sithis would be there saying, "I hope no one stops him because that'll be a rights violation."
Well, that's why I say we should get rid of public schools so things like that won't happen.
Well, no. There's public schools there in this hypothetical. You can't.
Well, yeah, I know.
Weasel out of that one.
But again, I've already answered the question.
This
but
happens,
you're doing
by the way.
you're doing like these
I've worked in
gotchas.
schools.
I think it's kind of funny
Hold on,
that I
I've
caught you
actually
in a
worked in
corner
schools.
where you say that you support
I've got
murdering
a
and
corner
raping
school.
people, but now you're trying to like
That's not a
find
corner.
a situation where somebody
That's not
masturbates
a
in front of
corner.
another person, and you're trying to be like, oh
Yeah.
my god,
For the trial, by the
this
way.
position is so crazy. But you like when 10 seconds, not even 10 seconds ago, you literally endorsed rape and murder. So like,
Yeah.
so
Against people who prefer that done to them than the other thing. But anyway,
yeah, as long as
So I've
51% of
actually
the
been in a
population
situation-
says it's okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we got these wacky hypotheticals. I've actually been because I work in schools. Well, I used to work in schools, and it has actually happened where I've had to throw a guy off of the school property, which was public property, by the way, because we didn't know who he was. He was just wandering around looking at the kids. God knows what he's.
Wait, you're an anarchist,
I
right?
grabbed hold of him. Yeah, but I grabbed hold of him and threw him off the property.
Yeah, you shouldn't consider public property to be legitimate. You're an anarchist, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, because public
So what you're
property
saying
is not legitimate, right?
Well, so
Yeah, so therefore they're not
don't think
necessarily
private
violating
property-
anyone's rights.
I don't think absentee property is legitimate either. But there's like still private property. There's fucking public property. There's public
Yeah,
roads.
there's no
around.
such
Do you
thing as
not use
public property.
roads?
That's state property that was
Do you
stolen
not-
from other innocent people. I mean, wait, you're an anarchist. You
Okay.
should be arguing with me. You should be
Yeah.
supporting me on this, right? We're both anarchists. We should
Well,
be
I do.
looking at this public property as being stolen property. So if I decide to go in there and do some crazy shit, I mean, I'm not violating anyone's rights. Am I initiating force against another person?
Well, you're traumatizing children.
Is it traumatizing somebody a violation of their rights?
Can you tell me this?
No, obviously not. Now,
Yeah,
do you have any more, or do you
Well,
want to
the-
go to the QA?
We can do one more. So like
Okay.
sex for rent, like
Sex for rent?
Sex for rent.
Yeah, I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong with that?
Maybe the PTSD and the feelings of shame and the feelings of
They don't have to do
insecurity
it.
in one's own living space. Well, they kind of do because they're about to be evicted.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
Well, they could still be
Imposed
addicted.
necessity. Addicted.
Evicted.
Oh,
I meant evicted. Evicted. They're saying they could get evicted.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could just move somewhere
Yeah,
else.
they can get evicted. Yeah, they can just lose their shelter and accommodation. Yeah, it's no
Yeah.
problem.
That's their problem.
Yeah, no
Exactly.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, Sithis.
Well,
now we
so
know where
is there
your
an argument? Or are you
preference
is there an argument? Or are you just saying, oh,
No,
well,
it's just a reductio. It's just a reductio. I'm saying,
Okay.
okay, that's where your preferences lie. It's subjective morality. at the
yeah,
end of
I
the
don't
day.
think there's
personally
anything
don't think
wrong
that's
with somebody saying, hey, if you want to
Yeah.
live in my house, suck
Yeah.
my dick or have sex with me. If not, then get the
Yeah.
fuck out. If they don't want to be there, they don't have to be there.
Fine.
It's my property.
Yeah, regardless of all the PTSD and people who commit suicide over this. Yeah, no problem.
Listen, if you don't want to if they don't want to have sex, they don't have to do it.
You should
Nobody's
have
forcing them to have sex. Mr. Thought Rat.
Okay, KingSithis.
Yeah.
All those
Anyways.
landlords been talking up again.
There's nothing
Anyway.
wrong with being a landlord. Landlords are based. Landlords are based. I want to be a landlord.
Anyways, let's go to Q&A because
All right, we could go to Q&A. It's probably going to be mostly for you. So, and if anybody wants to Q&A, if anyone in my comment section wants to ask a question, ask the question, raise your hand if you're in the audience, or say I in
Wait, you
the
have viewers?
chat. Yes, I have viewers.
Wait, you have viewers?
Yes, I
you?
do.
How many?
I don't know. I'm not looking at it.
I'll have a look at it.
I'm live streaming on 5 platforms at once. So,
Oh.
any questions from anyone? Anyone want to jump up and debate thought bad on anything?
Ooh. 2 people watching.
It's the ComCom. You want to jump up? All right. You're invited. Go ahead. Now let's keep it civil. I don't think I can hear you.
Has someone joined?
Yeah.
Oh wait, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I think I had a question for Thoughtbot, I guess, because I've been listening for a bit. I just want to know, like, I don't see how. Earlier you were talking about like justified coercion. Like, what do you mean by that?
So coercion for me is not tied to morality. So it's not contingent on property rights. It's not contingent on moral statements. Coercion is a natural property. So therefore, it's not like already analytically excluded from morality. So there are cases where coercion would be justified, in my opinion. For example, if it's to achieve the goal of saving the world, we can pluck somebody's hair. That would be coercion, but it'd be a justified coercion.
Well, that wouldn't even be. Well, how would that be coercion? That would just be force. Coercion is
How
separate.
do you define coercion now?
I would say coercion is like usually the threat of force, or well, it is like
Right,
the
okay.
threat of force.
Right,
I think
okay.
force is separate.
Oh, right, okay, we're splitting hairs, but like, okay. So
Well,
I
I'm just trying to be like
pluck
precise.
someone's hair. I threaten to pluck someone's hair to save the world. Is that making it any better?
Sure, yeah. I would say at that point that is coercion.
Yep, I'd say at that point that's justified coercion.
And what makes it justified?
The fact that we're saving the world.
What relevancy does that hold?
It's a more relevant factor because my aim the whole point of my ethics is it's augmented towards the promotion of a flourishing society and also a cohesive society. You can't have that when the world blows up, you know.
Yeah. So in some cases, it's okay to violate others to achieve good ends, to achieve a society that can flourish and whatnot.
If it's necessary to do so, not like if it needs to be necessary and immediate, like a little bit like the Ayn Rand's emergency situation.
I don't think so. Could you explain it, if that's relevant?
I don't think that's relevant. So it's the emergency situation is where life cannot go on.
Okay.
If normal norms were followed, like life would be impossible. Whereas, it's not like I'm going to maximize flourishing and things like this. That's not the aim.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
It's
I
not like a
understand what you mean.
utilitarian thing.
Yeah. Because okay. Yeah. So like the issue and I've been like thinking about these kind of like crazy hypotheticals because I think they're like kind of important for your ethics and whatnot. But I just don't know like where do you draw the line? Because obviously like I understand why people why people think like when you have these tiny aggressions, like plucking a hair or something to save the world, people like intuitively think like, oh, that's fine, it's justified. But I think the issue is like it gets into like arbitrariness because then you have to like you can like think up a million hypotheticals where it's like, okay, like at what point do we say this whatever aggression is no longer okay to say save the world? It's gone too far. I don't know. I don't think you can draw that line.
Yeah, typically what I do, the line I will draw is I ask what a reasonable person would allow to have done to them if they were aware of all the facts. So, for example, the hypothetical is stealing a penny to save the world. That's normally like, what would a reasonable person allow? Like, if it was to happen to them, and then I explained to them, and I was to convince them that it was done to save the world, would they turn around and go, "Oh yeah, fine, fair enough. I'm actually glad you did that." And that would be the level of coercion I'd be fine with. Same again for like pulling someone back if they're about to walk out in front of a bus or like a boulder is about to fall on them. Once they're made aware of the facts after I've done it, and they say, "Oh, thank you for that. I'm so glad you did that for me," then that'll be a justified one. If it's something like death, like would I kill someone to save the world? Well, assuming that in this situation, it's either they die or they die because the world's going to blow up. Well, I'm going to kill them because effectively I'm going to save 8 billion people as well. They're going to die anyways. When it comes to more extreme things like tortures and rapes, I'm less convinced. Now, this is where Sithis is a bit bad faith, because again, he'll try and portray it as like, oh, your ethics will promote rape, only if most people would rather be raped in a situation where the alternative is considered worse than rape. That's the only situation. And thus, but I don't actually think that is the case. I actually think there's a lot of victims out there who wouldn't be happy going through that kind of trauma. And so I'll probably draw the line at that, because I think that if you were to do that study, I'd be pretty confident something like rape and extreme torture, they wouldn't say, actually, no, I'd rather live and go through this and live with this for the rest of my life. So I wager I wouldn't need to. But anyway, the line I draw is like this test of reasonable expectation. What would I reasonably expect someone to prefer have done to them?
Can I ask a question?
No.
So, are you against sex work?
No.
But like, so you're kind of breaking my balls about the like sex for rent thing, right? And
Yep.
right, but I don't see it as being that much different from sex work.
Don't you?
No, because it's
So what
just
well,
because is like, is it wrong
So,
to offer a
as-
woman like money for sex?
No. Nope.
Then why is it wrong to offer rent for sex?
Because when it comes to sex for rent, that's normally done when somebody's in a significant level of financial vulnerability. Right. If it's like something like OnlyFans or a prostitute who does it on the weekends for fun, just to have another 50 quid in their pocket, that's different to what human traffickers do, where they go in and they exploit people who are either starving or they can't, or they're have to go to Jess's jail and things like that. And that's when it becomes exploitative. There are exploitative elements and severely exploitative elements into the sex industry, where I think most porn consumption should be looked at. But apart from that, it's not in a vacuum. It's not unacceptable to pay for sex.
Could I give you a situation like, so let's say like there's a woman who has like a like, I don't know, like 3 kids, and she just needs to have sex. The only way she can't find a job, and the only way she could get money is to having sex. And she puts an ad online. Are the guys like exploiting her in that situation?
No, because they're not the ones imposing the necessity. They're not exploiting.
I'm not sure how that's different from rent.
Well, because the landlord is imposing a necessity by claiming ownership of an absentee property title over a home. That's the difference.
Oh, because he owns a home and he's letting you
Specifically
use the
one of
home.
yeah.
But what if the woman
There's
takes
not
that money?
letting
But what if that woman takes that money and then spends it on rent? Would that make it any different?
No, because the men paying her aren't the exploiters in this
Yeah,
situation.
but to me, it's no different. If you have men having sex with her and then she uses that money to pay rent, to me,
Yeah, but they're not imposing. They're not the ones imposing the absentee property right of the landlord.
yeah, but if they don't
Right.
pay her, she's
This is
not
very
going to
silly.
get rent. She's not going to be able to live there.
Yeah, that's not their fault. That's the landlord's fault. It's the landlord's choice to do Victor.
All right. Does anyone, and Cap Doggo, do you want to ask him questions?
I'd love to discuss AE with Ancap Doggo.
He just came back here. I don't know. I'm not doing AE right now. Okay, that's fine. Is there anything else any of you guys want to ask, or is the ComCom, do you want to ask anything else?
I guess maybe were you guys just talking about like landlords and stuff for a little bit?
So
Now we weren't.
if I'm not mistaken, his argument is basically, and let me know if I'm wrong about that. You're basically saying because the landlord is the owner of that thing, that the necessity of rent is basically being imposed upon that person. Whereas I gave the situation, whereas like a woman is desperate and she has sex with men and then uses that money to pay rent. Is that necessity then being imposed by the men who are having sex with her? And he said no, because they're not the owners of the land.
Yeah, they're just traders and consumers at that point.
I don't understand like thought about like your whole when you guys were talking about. Well, this just relates back to like the whole Coconut Island thing, and whatnot. But like you've been talking about like this idea that like necessity is imposed upon someone if you have like say some property owner, right? Like the owner of the coconuts. Like you kept arguing that like the owner of the coconuts is like imposing the necessity to what like eat for the
No.
person who doesn't. What necessity are they imposing?
No, this is a common straw man I see Ancaps make of socialists, where it's like, oh, you're being coerced by nature. We're not saying it's either eat or starve, or it's work or starve. It's the property relations are so that it's necessary to appeal to the conditions set by an owner or meet the conditions set by an owner. That's the artificial restriction we're talking about. Not the fact you need to work in order to eat and live. That's true in all situations. Not the fact that you need to use things in order to live. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is if you've got an island and it's owned by one person because they've imported it or whatever, then that is the imposed necessity to meet his demands before accessing the means of life.
So okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to think of how to respond. And so for you like that means that like if you have some property owner like the person who has the coconuts and you have the person who's going to die without the coconuts, that the well, I think you said this earlier, that the property owner is at fault for the person if they like choose not to give them any of their food, or at fault for the person's death.
Yeah, in this situation when there's only two people, the blame rests entirely on the property owner. Yeah.
So like in your mind, like there's an obligation upon the property owner to provide, and if they fail to meet that obligation, it's their fault.
No.
Wait,
no,
then
no
what?
obligation. I'm an error
It sounds
theorist,
like.
right? So
Then
what I'm
how can
saying
the?
is, no, hold on. So we're not talking about morality just yet. We're just talking about what coercion is. Coercion for me, which is where I differ from Sithis. Coercion for me is not contingent on property. In fact, property norms I'd rather be built around the minimization of coercion. Now, as for obligations are concerned, I'm an error theorist, so I don't actually believe there's any such thing as an obligation, like in terms of moral sense. But what it also means is that there's no obligation upon the castaway, second pack castaway, to respect the ownership rights of the owner there. There's no reason for them to do so, because doing so would mean starvation, and there's no sensible, not even like an egoist fictionalist model that I'm trying to create in my own works would prescribe any such a thing. There's no reason for that person to just say, "Oh yeah, okay, fair enough. You own
Yeah,
this
there
token."
is.
No, there's not.
There 100% is.
What's that reason?
So wait. Like imagine like we just replace like imagine the
Can we
person
have that
who's gonna
reason?
stop. Okay, listen. Imagine we
No,
replace
can we
the
have that
person.
reason? I'm not letting you weasel off that. Can we have that reason, please?
Wait, what?
I asked you what the reason was.
The reason could a reason could be if the person who's gonna starve without the food, like they have certain principles they follow, such as the NAP, and that their reason for not wanting to steal from them is that they don't want to violate the other person's rights.
Now we're talking about the reason to hold the ethic. So you're saying the reason why
Oh,
he wants to hold the ethic is because he wants to hold the ethic. Like, no, that doesn't work. Try again.
wait, you're asking me the reason to hold the ethic?
Yeah. Why would this person hold to the NAP?
Because they don't want to be a parasite.
They don't want to be a parasite.
Yeah, they don't want to leech off of others without their consent.
He's not leeching off of others. The property owner did fuck all but on board of the coconuts.
What'd you say?
That's not a product of his. He's not being a parasite in any sensible sense.
Yeah, you are.
No,
If you violate the person's consent, you 100% are.
Well, okay, you're defining parasitism as violating a property right, which is just a nonsense definition of parasitism.
It's like more figurative, I guess. Like
Yeah,
like of
then,
course it's
so
not.
if you're saying parasitism would be
Like it's not literal, like
hold
like
on,
a parasite.
I'm talking.
All right.
A guy just goes around an island saying, "This is mine, this is mine, this is mine," and he just draws a big fence or a big ring around the island. He borders it in Hoppian terms, and it says, "Everything here that's already here and was here before me, that is mine now." And then someone wakes up and says, "Oh shit, I need to eat," and there's literally fuck all else. Even the lizards are owned by this guy. And he goes and just takes a coconut. And you say, well, it's a parasite because he's actually violating the imported property norms. Okay, but that's when you say that is parasitism, that's when it loses all moral force. Like, that doesn't mean anything to me.
Well, hold on. How exactly did the person who apparently owns the island, like, did they actually, like, homestead it? Like, what did they actually do?
They imported it. They drew a line around it.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree that that's, like, actual, like, homesteading. Because they didn't really, like... Huh?
Okay, he built a fence around it.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's actual homesteading, because he actually... Like, that's, like, that... Like, because that's, like, a physical, like... He actually put up that border. People can tell, like... You know, like, I think just a line is kind of just, like... Doesn't really matter, because it's, like...
Well, it's a human intervention. Well, I can see why. He's mixing his labor and drawing the line. In Hoppian terms, right? In Hoppia and Rothbard, that would be how bordering works. You're visibly signifying human intervention here. It's not natural.
I don't know. I feel like you have to, like... Yeah, like, sure, like, you are, because you're drawing a line in the sand, like, literally, I guess. But,
yeah.
I don't know.
It doesn't really matter. Like, okay, say you build a fence, or say puts like little fucking flags around it. Doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, he's not growing any of the coconuts. The coconuts are not a product of his labor.
What does that matter?
Well, if you're saying he's a parasite on the owner who's doing fuck all, who's just sitting there saying, "Ha, I own this, suck my willy," and you're saying, well, actually, the other guy's the parasite, even though the owner, quote unquote, did absolutely nothing to grow these coconuts. He's not even using the damn things. He's the parasite, apparently, because he drew a line. What? This is nonsense.
Wait. So if I own a house and I have a backyard and a tree randomly starts growing in the backyard, is the tree not mine because I didn't do anything to grow it?
What? No, that's not what I said.
No, it's an analogy.
That's a pivot. That's a pivot.
It's not a pivot. It's an analogy. No, it's an analogy because I'm asking. I'm trying to test you. I'm trying to see.
We're talking about what parasitism means.
No, because you're trying to. Wait. You're trying to. Well, that is important. You're trying to say that, like, oh, the person who claims to own all the coconuts or whatever, they didn't do anything to grow the trees or whatever. Therefore, they don't have, like, any enforceable right over them.
No, I didn't say that. I said I didn't say that. Right. What I said was, in this context, in this argument I'm having with you right now, if you were to say that the guy eating the coconuts, even though all the other guy did was just draw a line around them, he didn't grow them or anything like that, and you could say the guy eating the coconuts without the consent of the first guy is a parasite, then that's where it loses all rhetorical force, because that just sounds like nonsense. That is,
no, it's
I would
not
happily call. Well, it is nonsense, because if you're just because the problem is, a parasite is somebody who's, like, benefiting from the work of another person without their consent. Like, someone else is making, and then the parasite is taking. Right? In this situation, the guy did not make any of the damn coconuts. He just drew a fucking line, which is not productive labor towards the production of those coconuts. He did nothing of the sort that's relevant. So calling the latecomer the parasite is fucking nonsense.
No, because if we're assuming that... Wait, so, like, are you... We have to get, like, to the core of this. Like, so when the person, like, draws the line or whatever, like, do they not, like, or do something to, like, are you saying, like, they don't become the property owner?
I didn't... Well, hold on.
Then what is, like...
about what parasitism means.
Yes, we have to talk about property rights.
You're flying around all over the place. We're focused on parasitism. Parasitism has a very specific conception that what comes to mind. It's like, I've made all this stuff, and then this guy over here, without any of my consent, he's coming in and he's taking all this stuff. Right? That would be a parasite. But in this situation, where I could agree with you and say, yeah, I'm an ANCAP, and this would be a genuine property right. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But I would not, even in those circumstances, I wouldn't agree with you and say, yeah, this guy's a parasite, because the guy who owns the coconuts did nothing to produce coconuts. He's not
But
living off his labor.
that doesn't
Alright.
matter because it's his property.
All right. It looks
You
like
can't use other property without their consent.
That's where it just gets going back and forth in circles.
yeah. One sec. So cosmic non-problemist. Did you have a question?
Yeah, so Sithis, I know for a lot of these scenarios, we tend to split. Say, we're in the island scenario, we're talking about survival situations, basically, aren't we? Like the ethics for me generally get very fuzzy in terms of the justified course of action for either party. And it's we're kind of talking about an emergency sort of survival situation for planets blowing up from Martians or something, based on somebody plucking hairs. Like these aren't really, I think, useful guiding ethical scenarios so much. When we're talking about the production and distribution of CP, we're talking about day-to-day real crime, or at least if you don't want to define it as crime as such in terms of the consumption from distribution. But what I want to understand is, do you not see how, in terms of a rights violation, right? It's where do we draw the line on where it would even be an acceptable parameter, right? To view like sort of egregious content like CP, and why?
All right, so I'm gonna answer this question, but I don't want to linger too much on it because we're kind of on YouTube and the web's internet and stuff like that. So I'll just give you the short of the short, which is essentially viewing online content, no matter how gruesome it is not an initiation of force against another person's person or property. It doesn't matter if what you're watching is gruesome, disgusting, abhorrent. It doesn't matter what you're watching. Fundamentally, when I say things like whenever you look at something that when you just figure out whether or not something is a rights violation, from the libertarian perspective, you have to look at it like this: is the person initiating force upon another person's person or property? Is there some sort of measurable damage being done to another person's person or property from that other person's actions? And if you can't point to me to that being going on, then it would not be a rights violation, no matter how disgusting I might consider it to be.
So there's two angles you can look at it. One is a person's privacy in terms of sensitive content. Now, we could deal with that angle. The other one, I would say, is an established threat on the part of the person who gets like sexual gratification out of viewing that content. That it provides almost a legitimization in their head or increased desire in kind of following through on this desire. I think it's something that just sort of this version of ANCAP ethics completely fail to account for. So you could compare it. Somebody getting in plutonium, right? And they're looking up specific instructions for making a nuclear bomb. They're not violating anybody's rights, but have they established themselves as a threat?
Well, the thing is, if whether or not they're a threat, I mean, I would probably say no. But the thing is,
why can't they make nuclear bombs?
Hold on one sec, Cap. Just give it me. Let me respond to this, and then I'll let you go. My thing is, fundamentally, if the person is not initiating force against any person or property, then they aren't violating anyone's rights, no matter how disgusting I might think what they're doing is, or stupid or bad. Or now, if somebody is planning to do something to another person, or they are intending on harming another person, or they're threatening to do something to another person, that is a threat of force, and that obviously in the libertarian ethics should be stopped. But yeah, I mean, there's a difference between viewing and doing, if that makes sense.
Right, but I see a very clear pipeline, just as with this potential bomb, this like almost bomb maker in the making, that there is a clear chain of escalation of events leading towards these scenarios of which we want to protect people's rights from such violations, right? So it's because we all know why people download CP, right? That aren't just the police gathering their evidence to bring to court. It's specifically the enjoyment, gratification, right, of the abuse of minors, right? That is what they're viewing the content for. This is clearly a person, right, who is not. They're not exactly being deterred, right? In their pursuit of watching this, they enjoy it. It gets their wee hard, right? I don't see how a libertarian can honestly say that in itself doesn't present the ingredients for an escalation.
How can you derive something non-aggressive to something aggressive here? Because there's nothing aggressive about this act.
Hold on. So is it a rights violation to ask a child to go home with you?
Depends on what you intend on doing.
Well, fuck knows, right? We say intend in a vacuum, right? So a stranger goes up to someone else's child and says, "Do you want to come home with me? I've got some sweeties in my van."
Well, that
So
in
that's itself a rights
itself
violation.
isn't a rights violation, but like obviously it's what you intend on doing. So, for
Right,
instance,
but
if you intend on
we get
harming that
Skype
child,
before.
and the thing is, if you are the if the guardian of the, it really depends on what the guardian of the child, believes should be done in that situation. So, the thing is, we as libertarians, we believe in guardianship over children. So if the parent like doesn't want you to be near the child, doesn't want you to talk to the person, and they tell you to leave the kid alone, and you continue, I mean, then it would be a rights violation. But I would say just going up to somebody and saying, "Hey, do you want some candy?" I mean, not necessarily.
And then, so there's also cases like, especially in safeguarding. Again, like I know about this stuff. I'm trained in this stuff. Parents can be neglectful, and what they'll sometimes do is misplace trust in strangers. Like there's absolutely no reason to trust a stranger, and they might say, "Okay, I don't really care if my child goes home with this guy offering candy in the white van." So even as a guardian is giving consent to this.
There's
But what
another
happened
point.
before, I'll let
I
you get
mean,
there.
listen, parents misjudge, parents make bad decisions. You know what I mean? But I feel like the libertarian ethic isn't really that far off from how it is right now, which is basically like, in some situations, like you're allowed to let your kid hang out with other family members or have sleepovers and things like that, so long as there isn't any force going on. But yeah, I mean, it really it's situational. It's very situational. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it can be as grim as like a child will go back. They'll go on a sleepover, and the parent of the child that they're supposed to be on a sleepover with would themselves be abusive, and they'll come back with like bruises on their arms, and the parents will acknowledge the bruises on the arms but not do anything about it because they're good mates with the parent who's doing it or whatever. They'll just believe the parent that they'll believe that the other person, when they say, "Oh, she just fell down the stairs," and these things. There's like oversight in guardianship, and yeah, they're mistakes. But what we do in law at the moment, and what I'd like to see done in the law in like my anarchist society, would be to hold parents accountable for those kinds of oversights.
Well, yeah, we're us libertarians don't disagree with that. If you're a guardian over your child and you are doing something that harms that child, yeah, you're responsible for that. Like, it's the same thing. The thing is, the only difference between a child is that they're unable to make their own decisions, but they're still a self-owner. So if you harm that child or put them in harm's way, you're just as liable as harming any other person.
Yeah, of course they are. Right? Of course they are. But I'm more talking about the neglect side, the oversight. So it's like a parent has been given good evidence that another adult is abusing their child, but they're not doing anything about it. or even a teachers do this. A teacher sees that a child has bruises all over them, like if they're getting changed of PE or whatever the fuck. They spot bruises and they don't do anything about it. They don't report it to the police. They don't report it to the parents. Don't do anything about it, safeguarding wise. The teacher would be legally responsible for failing to protect the child.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think an ANCAP ethic would be in favor of holding the teacher there accountable, or holding the responsible guardian accountable for those things happening.
There is another point.
I'm
I want
not
to make.
sure about that
I
one.
can answer this if you want.
Yeah, do you want to answer? Go ahead.
Yeah, right. So if a guardian here neglects their child, right, they relinquish their property right in this guardianship. I mean, they no longer have a rightful control to it. However, we would not be in favor of the teacher situation unless there's like prior contract here.
Yeah,
The
if you
teacher is
do
not a
something
guardian.
that harms the
They have no
kid, the
guardianship.
kid gets taken away from you, and somebody else. Yeah. Or if
Yeah.
you
What about neglecting the kid?
if you neglect, that means that like the second that you neglect your child, you're basically saying, I no longer want to be the guardian of this kid, and then
Yeah.
somebody else could take that up, basically. So
Yeah.
Well, they're feeding the kid. They're not like, it's not like a binary. Like neglect isn't like, oh, they're doing absolutely nothing.
well, in the
to
sense
protect
that
the child. That never happens.
excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, in this case, there's clear neglect.
In the sense
Like, if they're
that
aware they're-
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, like there is clear and obvious neglect if they're aware of them being abused by other people and they don't do anything about it and they continue to send them over there, right? They're using them as a means to abuse them as well. They're
Yeah.
implicit in this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, and if you don't want to take care of your kid anymore, right? That means like somebody else would then have the right to come in and take care of that kid. And if you tried to stop that person from coming and taking care of that kid, then you would be responsible for what they call forestalling. That's what they call it. Because then you're stopping them from taking care of somebody
language
whom they
barrier.
want to.
Does that
So-
satisfy you, Cosmic, rather?
Well, it was. I was actually wanting to discuss this in terms of like how do ANCAPs view even consent with regards to children. So
Children can't consent.
Definition.
Well, what? Okay. Up to what age are you defining a child?
I can answer this.
Yeah, you can go.
A child, by definition, like in philosophy, when we're talking about it, just means it's someone who can't express their will here. So we're not putting an objective age on it. I don't think that would be possible. It'd just be whether or not they could express their will over a given domain.
Right. So yeah, but you're going to need to define it in legal terms, aren't you?
Like if they like can understand the consequences of what they're doing, just like just what we have right
Generally,
now with the very
us
restrictive
ANCAPs,
practice.
like I would say personally, I would say it's 18, sometimes even higher than 18, because that's generally when your brain is starting to like fully develop. Sometimes it's
Yeah,
even
it
later
is-
than that. Sometimes
it
it
is-
could be earlier than
yeah.
that. I mean, it really just depends on each person to person.
It is generally going to be in the higher ages there, late
Yeah.
teens to early 20s probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
But I think it's
If-
possible to put them like an objective age.
So if people below this age range, right,
Mhm.
are bad at school, or they steal like stuff from a shop, right, or they just get involved in like antisocial behavior, are we saying that they're at a level of diminished responsibility due to being under the age of 18?
I don't know if that qualifies as neglect, because like when we're talking about neglect, it's about violating the natural state of the child here.
Mhm.
And I don't think that it's like being antisocial. I don't think that qualifies here.
Yeah, how do you
No,
define
no.
antisocial? That's kind of
Yeah, that's also a very broad term.
Right. I think you can characterize antisocial as just you're generally engaging in like levels of harassment or intimidating behavior towards the public, but you're not you sort of well in the UK, and I assume in the US there are going to actually be laws for what is antisocial behavior, but it's usually with regards to not a clear act of aggression, but you're just generally being a nuisance to public order.
Well,
Yeah, we just kind of have a different view of this than you do, because we don't like it's
That's
for
not-
us. There has to be some sort of concrete like violation of property rights, in the sense that there has to be some visually ascertainable, subjectively ascertainable, measurable damage done to other person or property by either one person or the other. Now I'm not sure like how it goes in the libertarian ethic, like if a kid violates the law, like who's responsible, the parents or the kid, like how that's dealt with. I'm not really sure how that is with under the libertarian ethic, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's how we would view
then
it.
you have to. Yeah, but then it caters towards what I'm kind of building towards, which is a situation of grooming. For example, if we say that for a given act, the child is under diminished responsibility, and onus is kind of put on the parent, right, or someone, over the like well-being and proper conduct of that child. Like, how do you guys view a situation of grooming where the child says, I fully consented, they didn't force me in any way, like this relationship I have with this like 30-something-year-old is fully consensual.
Well, it's a blatant contradiction, because you're saying that the child like is saying that it can consent, right? Because the
Yeah.
child here is just means to cannot consent. Like
Yeah,
in
so, yeah.
philosophy, like I'm referring to people who are asleep as children, for example, if we're going to within that matter.
In the sense that they're
Right,
not able
right.
they're not able to express their
Express their
will
will.
and
Yeah, they can
understand the consequences of their actions. And the thing about children is, when you say, oh, a child wants to have sex with an adult, well, the thing is, if a child is a child, well, then they're not able to fully understand the consequences of their actions, so therefore it would sort of be left to the guardian in that situation. And obviously the guard and it would be obviously a no, because if you allowed somebody to have sex with a kid, that would be a damaging to that child. So that would be a rights violation of that child. So I
I'm
mean,
on the
it
clock, by the
depends on
way.
when they become an adult, then they can make that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's approaching 11 p.m. for me. I would want to move on from this one and just ask ANCAP, Doggo, or anyone else if they've got a final question for me, and then I'll get going.
I think I don't have any questions left. If you guys want to go ahead.
I was like a little bit right in the start of the debate, and I just came in here at the end here, so I didn't get much of the debate here. I don't think I have much.
It'll be on my channel.
What I find more intriguing, though, because we can talk about the nuances of relations between like adults and children and
Honestly,
things like that.
I'll be very honest with you. I really don't want to get into that, and I don't care about it. That's not something I want to get into.
Yeah, so we can go.
Really well into
Yes,
it here.
so we can go to something which somebody mentioned, or whether it was in the chat or something, that I just find more interesting as an avenue, which is somebody says, or you find that somebody is watching videos or something for how to create a bomb, right? And you're seeing on their records they're buying in ingredients for a bomb. Let's scale it up for the sake of the hypothetical and say they're getting in somehow the equipment for a plutonium bomb, for a nuclear bomb, right? Do you only consider an intervention at the point that the person has either expressed the intent to or actually detonated the bomb, and now like New York is a crater?
Yeah, like there's nothing wrong with like building a bomb here. Like that's not inherently aggressive. Like if you can see that these people are actually, if someone is actually genuinely trying to get like a nuclear bomb of like mass scale, then I don't think like intervention here is the answer. Like you just completely economically and socially ostracize them. But because what they're doing is not inherently aggressive, you can't use force against them.
Yeah, if what the person is doing isn't aggressive, then and you are making a claim that you think that person is going to violate another person's rights, you have to give some sort of evidence for that. Like, for instance, like if me and you are in a court and you buy a bunch of guns, right? And I go to the court and I'm like, hey, this guy's about to kill a whole bunch of people. Oh, what's his reason? Oh, he bought a bunch of guns. Well, it's just like, well, I mean, simply because you bought a bunch of guns doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go around shooting people. And maybe he's just going to use it to, protect his property. So you have to have like some sort of evidence to determine like, oh, this guy's actually going to go and use this bomb to harm a bunch of people. Like, oh, let's say he wrote in his diary, oh, at this time I'm going to blow people up, or maybe some other evidence or circumstantial evidence or something like that that's hinting to him going to blow up a people or kill people or harm some people. Then you have a case. But if you don't have something like that, I mean, simply just going and like, if I go on the internet and I just want to be cool, funny, right? And I want to be like, oh, how to build a nuclear bomb, right? Should I go to jail because I just looked it up? Like, I don't think so.
Yes.
Because I don't have the means to build a bomb like that.
That's not my. So the scenario I presented is where somebody's actually getting in the equipment. They're actually getting in provided the right quantity of plutonium and nitroglycerin. And palladium and all that sort of
again, you
stuff,
have to have something.
right?
Simply having the parts for a bomb or putting together a bomb isn't evidence that they're going to use it to blow someone up. The same way that like having guns or having a car like doesn't necessarily mean you're going to run somebody over with it. Having a gun doesn't mean necessarily you're going to shoot somebody with it. So you have to have something more. You have to have something more than just, oh, he has a bomb. You have to have some sort of evidence.
Aside from like him just saying, I'm going to blow up New York, and him pushing the button and then the missiles flying to New York, what evidence would we be able to provide in order to try and stop him from blowing up New York?
I mean, there's like you could have circumstantial evidence, stuff. I don't know. I'm not a fucking detective.
Yeah, but like that would be
what about like
do it, right?
You see his internet activity, and his internet activity is like looking at ideal locations to blow up, to detonate a bomb in New York, and he's
let's not even do that. Let's not even do that. Let's literally say he's bought property in New York, right? And he wants to have his bomb located right there, so it's with the mere press of a button, he could detonate it at any. In fact, let's be gender inclusive. He or she could detonate it at any single point in. They merely need to flip a switch, and Manhattan turns into a big crater. Do you not see that there is an established threat here, regardless of what they think their motivation is?
Well, in that situation, probably. Yeah, right.
But you completely
changed the whole hypothetical from, oh, I went, okay, so this is what you did. You went from, oh, if somebody goes on the internet and looks up how to build a nuke, does that make him say that he deserves to go to jail? Oh, no, not really, because he's just looking it up. Oh, now he's in New York City and he has all the equipment and he has a button that he could just press that he could just blow everybody up. Do you think that's a threat? Well, probably, yeah, because he could kill everybody in that city. It's a little bit different.
I said that. No, I said he's getting in the equipment at the start.
Well, either way, you know what I'm saying. I obviously was, but you know what I'm saying. It still stands. The hypothetical argument still stands.
Okay. Let's keep on that scenario. Right? He's in Manhattan with his plutonium. It's like a megaton.
Okay, is there going to be an end to these hypotheticals, or is just going to be another hypothetical after hypothetical after hypothetical? Like, at what point are you going to be satisfied with the, like, what do we need to say for you to be satisfied with?
Right. So my contention is it feels like at least ANCAPs from this school of thought don't notice that they're going to run off a cliff until the car is literally like off the ground and plummeting towards like the crevice.
You could prove someone's threatening you, right? That's possible, right?
We're just concerned with not violating rights. Like, obviously, it might seem like counterintuitive, like when you're talking about like, oh, what if this person, there's like with the whole bomb hypothetical, and like you're building this whole scenario, and it's like this person seems like a threat. Well, we just want to be able. We just have to assess, like, okay, is this person like actually liable to like become a threat to others and aggress?
Imagine there's a court case, right? I've sued KingSithis because I think KingSithis wants to blow New York up. Right?
Uh,
And then the defense say, right, thought about what's your evidence. I say, right, okay. Here's the first bit. He's Googled how to look up a bomb, and they'll probably say that's not enough evidence. Okay.
Mhm.
Now he's bought all the materials to buy a bomb, to build a bomb. Sorry. Is that evidence? No, maybe not. Okay, now he's built the bomb. That's probably going to be a bit of evidence. Maybe not. He's bought property in New York to build the bomb, to
Yeah.
place the bomb there. No, that's not enough evidence. He's actually put the bomb there right now. The bomb's literally there. Is that enough evidence? No. So where? Okay.
Is there a threat of force?
What Cosmic
Is there
is saying?
like it
Cosmic
depends on whether or not like you have some way
Yeah,
of
it's a good
determining
point.
whether or not he's going to, like,
So,
for
yeah, so
instance,
what you're doing?
In fact, say it's
basically
me.
gigantic loophole.
obviously,
In fact, say-
like,
say-
okay, just because like there's a situation here where it's just like, obviously, just because I can't sit here and answer every single hypothetical that you throw at me does not necessarily mean that.
We're
Hold on,
We're trying to find the line.
I understand, but just because I can't tell you where the line is does not automatically mean that there isn't a line, or that we can't prove
Yeah,
from
but
the
that's why we're trying to
libertarian
find it.
ethic whether or not. Yeah, but just
I-
you know,
We want to find it. We want to help.
What,
wanna help
wait,
you out.
thought back.
Jesus
What it
Christ.
means, what it means is there's a line which even a person with a few brain cells would know how to easily cross and not fall foul of the law until they've already committed the crime. So I say, I am building this bomb. I say to the mayor of New York, I am building this bomb in New York as an artisanal piece, and it's a memorandum to the Cold War and the US Minuteman bomb. And look, I've not armed it. Look at that. Visitors can come. They can pay a little fee. But I know I could say whatever. The moment I want to, I arm that thing, and I turn that region of Manhattan into a new crater site. Right? But I can say whatever to the law because I'm not an idiot and I know how to skirt around it in this libertarian system.
Isn't that like a genuine critique of this system, though?
yeah. The only
It is.
yeah,
It
the
is
only
because-
argument.
No, let
Yeah,
let
the
me
only
answer this.
argument that I
Yeah.
could make against that is that, listen, if the only way that you could stop somebody from doing something with their person or property is if you have evidence that they are violating another person's person or property, or there's some sort of threat thereof. Just because I can't answer every hypothetical, doesn't automatically mean, that if there was a situation where somebody was threatening somebody, that we wouldn't support stopping that person, because obviously it would violate the non-aggression principle. So,
Hold
for
on.
instance, any situation in which there's an initiation of force against another person in any way, we're going to support stopping that person from doing that thing, right? But obviously, every single case, we're not going to always have like the answer for every single edge case and edge
Well, to be
situation.
fair, you are giving answers. Your answer's just going to be like, it's just no. So no, that's not evidence. No, that's not evidence. And we got to the point where Cosmic Non-Promise is saying, we've already got a bomb in New Manhattan, and no one can do shit until he presses the button.
Right. Hold on. I can answer this. Hold on.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. All right.
May I speak?
Right. This is separate from theory. This is a practice-based argument, and it's because in theory, always, if he has intent to blow it up, there is obvious aggression. However, how we're going to prove this within a practice-based system here, right? Then that's actually kind of detached from theory itself. However, it's going to be up to the courts here. I don't think any of what you have provided would be sufficient evidence. However, just because you can't use force to stop him from doing it doesn't mean that you can't use economic and social factors of doing so. There are so many different ways that people can be absolutely insane, right? But you can still completely and socially, economically ostracize them.
Mhm.
Like, let's say, hold on, I have an example. Like, security agencies, insurance agencies, the roads themselves, right? They can blacklist these people, and if they don't, they will gain horrible reputation,
Mhm.
right? Just be insistent based on.
No, I'm gonna have a bad reputation after blowing New York up.
Yeah.
Just what's it called where you think
I
a
can't shop
business?
at my local barbers now.
No. What's it called where you advocate the not dealing with the business? What's the term? Somebody say it before I have to look it up.
Shit.
Yeah, but
What's it
wait a
called?
minute. You do
Wait, what do you mean?
realize that even in any country, just looking up how to build a bomb isn't enough to like throw somebody in prison, right? Right.
I understand. I
Mhm.
understand. That's why I gave that certain level of escalation to the
Mhm.
point where somebody, if they wanted to, right, would be ready to use the bomb. But they have thus far in libertarian theory established no clear precedent that they are going to use this thing. They have merely just built it, right? And also we have. There's this thing in law where they know that people who aren't complete morons, like your run of the mill petty criminal, knows what to say to necessarily skirt around the law, right? Like the mafia for decades knew this principle well, to just skirt around the law, right, in their statements and their public actions. That's why it made it so hard to get rid of them, right? But I'm saying if you escalate this to where personal actions that could result in the devastation to a large community, like a nuclear bomb, people can skirt around that until the point where the only separation between them there and it happening is them pressing the button. To me, it's like, I don't know, libertarianism has theorized
Hold on, you
itself
do
into.
realize that
I
you
don't
could
share this
prove
issue with
you do
libertarians.
realize you could prove somebody that has intent to blow somebody up without necessarily waiting until they push the button, right?
Right. But if this person's smart, are they going to say on Twitter, guys, should I blow up New York on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Right? If they just know that as long as I'm not making any public advocacy, right, or specific intent in my online searches to detonate this thing somewhere in a populated, even a non-populated area, right? They they can clearly do it.
But here's the
Because there's
problem.
not.
Here's the problem, right? Let's say you had a person that was looking up how to build a bomb and was buying it just to protect his own property. And then now people are like, oh, you're going to use that bomb to blow us up. So now we're going to lock you up. It's like now you've locked up somebody who's innocent, who didn't violate anyone's rights. Whereas I'm saying if you are going to lock somebody up, you should have some evidence to prove that they did it. If not, then
How
Yeah, but
okay. How
the thing is, we've given I think we've given pretty. I would say if you're putting a bomb in New York on your private property, you built plutonium and all the rest of it, you found out the ideal place to do it, and you've actually Googled
you
where the
say
ideal
more projects?
that itself, everyone in this room is not sitting here thinking, what is he really doing?
Wait, what did they Google?
Yeah, we know.
I
we
mean,
know
if they're
exactly what's going on.
Googling, obviously, hey, how to blow
I
up
don't
a
even
city,
think-
then
I
you
don't
could
even
use that
think
as
it's, like,
circumstantial
necessary
evidence to be like, hey, like this guy's probably intending on blowing up a city.
Mhm.
But it really
Yeah,
depends
like,
on the
I don't think ANCAP's
situation.
even
Obviously,
committed to this.
different situations.
ANCAP
It really is. It's up to the court in each situation. That's really what it is.
Yeah, but
ANCAPs
how
don't need
do
to commit to this at all. Like, it's not like
The only
necessarily
difference, the only
intentional.
thing that we're asking, right, is like some sort of evidence. Now, obviously, like I'm not a court, I'm not a fucking like judge. I can't tell you what the standard of evidence for every court is going to take. But all I can tell you is like if you are going to charge somebody, you have to have some sort of evidence, and if not, then you're basically throwing somebody
But
in
what-
jail when they're innocent.
Mhm.
That's
When we
kind
say
of
some
fucked.
sort of evidence, when we say some sort of evidence, even like Googling how to build bombs, that itself would count as evidence in a
That's
court
not
of law.
evidence.
I'm not sure
It's not
that's
No,
evidence.
it's not proof.
It's not evidence.
Hold
I mean, it
on.
still is
Hold on.
evidence. It doesn't
Hold
have
on.
to be good to be evidence.
So hold on, it's not. It might not be decisive evidence.
You have to
on
have
its own
evidence
would
that they're
count as
intending on using it to violate
Oh my
another
goodness.
person's property rights.
You don't.
Yeah, but
this is how law works. This is how law works, right? So if I was part of a terrorist organization, right, like ISIS, right, I had communications with ISIS, and
Obviously, that's different.
I was looking at yeah, I know it's different. I'm just saying, and I was caught looking up how to build bombs. The fact I'm looking up how to build bombs would be counted as evidence of intent, right? It's contributing evidence. It's not decisive evidence on its own, but it is contributing evidence.
Yeah,
And
but
then
you're
will we
talking
say,
about a
well,
normal
okay,
person, not
now,
a person in a terrorist
oh my
organization.
goodness. Well, I don't think a normal person is going around putting bombs in New York. But anyway,
But let's just deal let's deal
That's an
with that
assumption.
scenario. I think it's the fact is I don't know what this ANCAP world is where like people walk up to a bank, right? Ski mask, a gun, like they look like a burglar from
That's
The
clear
Sims.
intent to rob a store.
Right,
If you go into a store with
why is it?
guns and a mask,
Well, no, I've just been skiing. And I've
when
got my
that's
gun on me
still
in case
no.
someone wants to
Let's
rob me.
say, hold on. That's the thing about private property, right? Let's say there's a store that the bank has a no mask, no guns policy, and then you run in there with masks and guns, right? Obviously, you're violating the rights of that person, and
Yeah,
you're
but if
intending
they say
on
no mask,
robbing them. So yeah, like that's
what if they
evidence. That's
got-
circumstantial
what
evidence
if
that
they
can
clean
prove
the
that someone's
windows?
arrested. Somebody's about to rob somebody.
Whoa! Yeah, but that's contingent on them putting a sign up saying that. Like, no.
You don't
skiing.
need to
Like,
put
I've
a
never seen a
sign.
bank.
It's
That's what you said. But anyways,
no, I'm
Like-
saying they have
No,
a
you just
rule.
said that.
That's an example. I'm just saying like is they have like a rule on their property. They say no people coming in here with masks and guns. Yeah, you can have that.
Do you think most criminals, especially organized crime, explicitly state their intent to the
No,
authorities?
bro, but
of which
obviously
to
there's
commit
such you do
crime?
realize there's such thing as circumstantial evidence and things like that, right?
Right,
Yeah,
like
okay.
like the things we've been giving you.
putting a nuclear bomb in a city.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, maybe it could be. It depends on what he intends on doing with it.
But
I'm not saying you're wrong. Listen,
what else?
I'm not saying you're wrong. All I'm saying,
what-
listen to me. I'm not saying you're wrong. All I'm saying is that it depends on the situation.
What,
depends on the situation.
what else would a person, an individual, put a nuclear bomb in a city?
Hey, if he
for?
intends
What
on
would
blowing
be-
people up, then stop him. If not, then don't. That's all I can
what-
say. All I'm saying is like you can't just go up to somebody who owns a bomb
I know.
and just take that thing away from them and being like, oh, yeah, you're gonna use that to blow people up. Well, it's just like, wait a minute. You don't even have any evidence that I was gonna do that. You're taking shit away from me because for no reason. I didn't even do shit.
Good. Better safe than sorry.
It's not silly.
What-
That's
what
how law
else?
works. That's how it
No,
works. You need evidence, bro. You can't just fucking take shit away from people, bro.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. Oh wait, aren't you an
This-
anarchist?
I am an anarchist. This is
Okay,
very silly.
you don't believe. Wait, aren't you
positive.
supposed to be against eminent domain?
Eminent domain. That's got nothing to do with this.
Yeah, bro. That's the government
Yeah.
seizing property because oh my god, I think you're gonna do something or
It
Oh, the
could be the
government?
community. Who says the government?
I
No,
mean,
who says the
the
government? We're
government is
both
seizing it.
anarchists,
They're
yeah.
gonna force you.
Did you put a nuclear bomb in their community?
Listen, bro. Why can't I be a nuke collector? If I want to be a nuke collector, what's wrong with that?
Right. And that's what I was getting onto. What other reason would a person have to put?
What
a
if I want to be a
nuclear
nuke
bomb?
collector?
Right. So
you
you build and collect live nukes, right, which can be detonated, and that is your role as a nuke collector.
Well, the thing is, what would most likely happen is that people who create nuke parts probably would not want to sell you nuke parts. A landlord would probably not want to sell to a person has a bunch of nukes. All the people in that area would probably not want to sell to a person who has a bunch of nukes, and they would basically be shut out of electricity and all this stuff. And there's other ways of, maybe there's like social ostracization. There's other ways of dealing with the situation, which isn't necessarily violating another person's rights.
So
yeah,
I
don't think it's ridiculous to say, "Oh, we need evidence before we throw somebody in jail." Yeah, obviously, yes.
Yeah, finger whack. Right, but we've talked about evidence, and you're saying that's not enough evidence, right? So putting a nuclear bomb in the middle of Newark, that's not evidence, apparently.
I feel like we're just repeating ourselves at this point, so we're gonna move
Well, yeah,
on to
I think we
something
are.
else.
Well, I need to go to
You
I'll
leaving?
go and talk to-
There'd be so many. There'd
All
be
right,
so
Thought
many
Bat.
like.
It was good talking to you.
It was an interesting conversation, as it normally is.
Hey, and you know what?
Right.
Despite all this, I think you're all right.
Well, I don't think you're all right.
You don't think I'm all right?
No,
Oh.
no, you're fine. As far as ANCAPs go, you're not too bad. I think you're falling for the same trap ANCAPs do, where it's like, one day I do want to like press on like why you prefer all this, like why? But
Because I like freedom, bro. I love. I don't like the idea of people being harmed, of people's rights being violated. And I think property rights are great. I think they make us better as humans.
I think property rights are great too.
Yeah.
I just don't want bombs in the middle of my city. But anyways, nighty night. Have a nice day.
Don't do
I'll
drugs.
see you. I shan't do drugs. Otherwise, I might become an ANCAP.
Anyone else?
Bye-bye.
I got some questions actually.
For me?
Let me find them. Oh, not for you. Anyone that wants to answer about the ANCAP. Someone else asked me, and I'm still trying to figure out it perfectly.
Go ahead. Fire.
Yeah. I'll first have the groundwork. Let me find it. All right. I think I did. In ANCAP, if you pollute someone else's property or cause a great amount of pollution, you can be sued for property damage, correct? Did
Yeah, if you have some sort of measurable damage done to you or your person or your property done by another person's pollution, then you can sue them and they would have to pay you restitution for the damage done.
At what point does that measurable damage can be disregarded?
So for instance, like let's say somebody who's the next door neighbor starts throwing some shit onto your lawn. You know, you could take a picture of it or something and then show it to your what you call it, like your rights enforcement agency or some sort of arbitration firm, and yeah, and they will deal with it.
What about pollution and global warming? Can that be measured as well?
What? Yeah,
What
that could
about
be measured.
Pollution and global warming.
Global warming? I don't know. Those are complex questions.
Like,
I don't know. I don't know how to do. I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know how
that's why I'm
specifically.
asking this.
You can't point out aggression when it comes to global warming.
True.
Oh,
You have
with
to
the
actually-
concept
Yeah,
global
okay.
warming?
Hmm?
The concept of
Not the
global
concept
warming is
of
not
global
an
warming.
aggression, but they like if you're polluting, like let's say you're an oil company and you're putting a bunch of shit in the air and that is negatively harming other people, well then you owe those people restitution. That's just how we would view it.
Yes, that oil company would be sued. But if, let's say, hypothetically, we can measure the harm a single person does and prove that they do harm, should that person be able to be sued? Like, it's more of a theoretical question. Like, I don't think it would
You
happen
have to point
practically.
their aggression on someone.
Yeah, you have to point out like the aggression. You have to prove it. You would have to show like some sort of measurable damage done to your person or property.
If it's provable that a single person driving their car, for example, does measurable damage, wouldn't that
No, actually, it's not.
make
Well, that's
No,
like
you-
so
It depends
negligible.
on if you're able
no.
to do so.
No, we shouldn't go like it's not measurable. We should go like, can you actually point me to the conflict has been initiated? What conflict here? Like, can you point me to it? Because you actually have to be able to prove it in the court here for this to work.
All right, I think I got it. Thanks.
All right, another debate won by KingSithis. What do you guys think?
Pretty good.
I wasn't there for the whole thing.
Oh wait, with ThoughtBat?
Yeah.
So basically, thought that he basically said that Well, anyways, I'm gonna end the stream, so give me a sec.
All right.
Anyways, guys, hope you guys have a good night.